Hello, this is Spades with my part 2 video of the Introversion Extroversion topic. So if you haven't seen part 1, you can watch it, but it's not absolutely mandatory. So here in this one, I'll be talking about some of the more specific characteristics associated with introversion or extroversion and sort of what my personal take or view on them is. And this won't be based off of any scientific research, so if anything I say is contradicted in the literature, please feel free to send me a link and I'll take that into account and change my opinions. So let's dive right in. Common characteristic associated is quietness versus loudness. And I'm going to assume that this isn't talking about the volume of someone's voice, because that's probably more genetically related, but more so the how much someone talks versus not. So, there is a correlation between loudness and extroversion for sure, but there are many other factors that come into play here that must be considered. Mainly environmental factors, who is the person talking to, what's the setting, is it a workplace environment or casual environment or party environment? How is the person feeling that day? If they're in a group meeting, they haven't prepared their part, maybe they won't say much. Or if they're at a party with people that they're really comfortable with, maybe they'll let loose and talk more. It's really situation dependent, and so you can't base somebody's amount of talking, you can't decide whether they're introverted or extroverted, especially given the other people they're talking to. Someone could be dominating the conversation, and the other person might be bored, or they could be talking about something they're very interested in. It really, really varies depending on the setting. So that's something to be very mindful of. And another characteristic is how social people are, or how much they socialize or see other people. And again, this has a lot to do with environmental factors such as how accessible are other people, how well do they get along with those people, how much free time do they have for them, any number of things. Someone might have a lot of work, their work might not involve others, they come home tired, they don't have time to see other people. Others might live with their friends, see them every day. So it really depends on the environmental factors in that case. On the flip side, how much alone time somebody needs, again, that extremely depends on environmental factors. People could, be overwhelmed and drained by their work. They could enjoy spending time with just 1 or 2 people every week. They might spend time alone all week and then party hard on the weekend. It really depends, and how much alone time someone needs is not really correlated to their introversion and extroversion so much. And again, it depends on how much they like the people they socialize with, and how much certain types of activities or interactions drain them. I mean, I'm much more drained being around coworkers than I am being around my significant other. So, another trait which I think by now has been kind of known to not be related is shyness or anxiety. Social anxiety in particular can happen to anybody. Anxiety in general can prevent people from interacting with others, avoiding situations that involve other people, or not speaking up because they lack the confidence. All of those things can happen to both introverts or extroverts. Here's one that I hear coming from people who have sort of a special snowflake syndrome, and they think, well, I'm deep and thoughtful and introspective. Well, here's the news. Most people think they are, and it's not something that's correlated with introversion or extroversion. Just because someone doesn't say anything doesn't mean they're involved in deep thought. People that varies more based on people's thought processes and cognitive abilities and other factors of their personality. How reflective, anyone can be reflective, and people might, for extroverts, they tend to like thinking out loud sometimes. So if they say a lot of things that, seem shallow or garbage, well, they're just, internally that process happens to all of us. They're just saying those things out loud as well. It doesn't mean that there isn't, the beef of the content isn't there. And language is a big thing. That goes into my next point. A lot of people are more nonverbal or conceptual or visual, such as myself, and so it's not always easy to express thoughts verbally. And so there could be, verbally proficient introverts or extroverts that are nonverbal, and so, sometimes they're afraid to be embarrassed, or, they can't express themselves, so they just choose not to. And so, that's another factor that can really go either way, like all of these factors that I've mentioned here. And it really depends, again, on the setting, who they're comfortable with, and, that individual person. So, that's another thing. Part of the Big Five definition, for example, is social assertiveness or sort of boisterousness and things like that. And although, sure, they're associated with extroversion, but it's another setting type thing. And something as simple as caffeine content in the bloodstream, such as, for me, I find it pretty directly correlated with my extroversion. So, of course, things like who you're talking to, again, anxiety comes into play here. How confident someone is can be directly related to how comfortable they are with the people they're communicating with. And yeah, it's another thing to consider. Finally, I have on here seriousness, and that's another factor that, again, doesn't necessarily mean that the more serious someone is, the more introverted they are, or the other way around. It depends on the context. It depends on what you mean by serious. Are they more focused? Do they make less jokes? I don't know. So that, again, depends on the person, the personality themselves. So that about covers most of the ones that I thought of. There are just so many misconceptions. extroverts don't shut up, they talk too much, whatever. Again, try to think, what is the context? Why is this person talking so much? No, it's not because they're extroverted. They might be an extrovert, but they might have other reasons for sort of disrupting your inner peaceful sphere. Don't pass that off as, that sort of trait. Similarly, don't, I guess, give a flip side example. If someone's not contributing to a conversation, don't assume, oh, well, they're just an introvert, so they don't want to talk. Maybe they're not interested in the topic, or any number of things. Could be having a bad day, whatever. So again, don't make assumptions based off of how much someone wants to go out, how much alone time they need to think and reflect, how much they enjoy being in other people's company. Again, I mentioned antisocial tendencies are something that actually is more correlated with extroversion. So it could be any number of things. And don't make broad generalizations about anything associated with this, because it's not two breeds of people. It's a continuum, and you can't arguably even place it on a one-dimensional spectrum, but we do that. So yeah, just be mindful and don't make sweeping generalizations about all extroverts are such and such, all introverts are such and such, or even most introverts are such and such, because that's just the little model you may have built into your own brain and might not have anything backing it up. So again, if my model here has been incorrect, please provide me with data. As for my own orientation, I have no idea whatsoever. Most of my life I associated with introversion strongly, but over the past year, when I've read more into it, especially the more Jungian approach, and looked into Big Five as opposed to MBTI, I'm really not quite sure. So, I'm a very solitary person, and I like to plan my own activities and work by myself most of the time, but I'm also quite chatty, so there's many other factors that come into play. So I'm not arguing for one particular side. I don't even know. I don't associate with any particular side. I have characteristics of either. And so I really like to get the message out there that it's not so black and white. So stop treating it as such. Thank you very much. Peace.